Hello and welcome to the Expanse. I'm the Quack and I hope you're having a less quack day than myself. This is part 3 of Flames of Dawn. If you have not watched the prior parts of this content, I highly suggest watching the parts prior to this one, or the full version of this content. Links will be provided. To continue from where the last part left off, the first hint you can thank Lhok for, because I can safely say without her expertise in Tauren lore, I would never have noticed this fact and in turn figured out its cascading importance. The High Mountain Tauren. They're an interesting bunch to say the least. Now, with everything I've been over so far from Arnshay to Uldum, what if I told you one of the general farewells of the High Mountain Tauren was Arnshay guide you? When I was told this, my mind began to break. I mean, not only was the farewell in our faces consistently in Legion, the Bloodhoof Tauren don't really have an equivalent. I mean, they do have May the Eternal Sun Shine Upon Thee, but even so, we know they only recently started embracing the sun again. With a farewell like the High Mountains, you'd expect they'd have some connection to the sun, yet when you look at the well-known information about the High Mountain Tauren, it doesn't seem to be the case. The closest connection they seem to have are their druids. That is, until you start digging. Anyone who played Horde during BFA or Legion remembers Lasan Skyhorn, chieftain of the Skyhorn tribe in High Mountain. He's that Tauren with the laugh. You know the one. What do the Skyhorn Tauren ride? Answer: eagles, which at this point I'm hoping have become synonymous with falcons, hawks, phoenixes, and at least a minor connection to the sun. Now, for any hunter out there, the instant response is going to be, yes, the Skyhorn do have a connection to the eagles, but that connection can be mainly traced back to Onahara, the wild god hunters saved when they obtained Talonclaw, the survival hunter legendary. Funny thing about that, this is what's described to have happened during the founding of Talon Peak. Instinctively I held it up to the sky, and all were amazed, none more so than I, to see a cascade of golden energy pour from the spearhead and take the shape of a great eagle. But Gardrell and I remembered the lore of our tribe, and realized Onahara herself had blessed this site. At that very moment we knew this sacred place should be renamed Talon Peak. I should also note, the fields of Arnshay just happened to be outside the entrance of Talon Peak. But anyway, golden energy. That is technically an odd occurrence for a wild god that isn't really known to have had a connection to any form of light. However, here's the other reference connected to the Hunter Legendary, and I swear whoever wrote the lore for Talonclaw hoped someone would find. The High Mountain tribe was led by Chieftain Moraine High Mountain, who saved Onahara, a wild god in the form of a great eagle spirit, from an attack by fire elementals. Now, if your first thought is, oh, he must be talking about the servants of Ragnaros, maybe a firehawk considering everything he's been through, I would completely understand. It's a reasonable conclusion. However, where Onahara may have been attacked by a firehawk or some form of fiery elemental, at this point I can almost guarantee you they did not serve Ragnaros. How am I so certain? Well, who remembers the Yongol Ordos on the Timeless Isle? I do, though the only reason why I do is because every time I think about that boss and how I can't access him due to reasons, I pull Sylvanas. Dead bodies and all. Anyway, it is quite possible Ordos pulled a Druid of the Flame, Shaman edition, and that's how he ended up the way he is. With that said, I want to propose that instead of being transformed by elementals of fire, Ordos was actually transformed by the sun, and is another indication the Tauren at some point had a greater relation to the sun than we know and they think. Now, I don't think I need to explain how the sun, or servants of the sun, could be construed for fire elementals considering what the sun literally is, and the fact there have been a myriad of priest and paladin abilities and lore related to fire. So instead I'm just jumping straight to the point. In Chronicle it's made clear all the Tauren variants we see to this day came from the Yongol, that were subjugated and flesh-shaped by the Mogu. What's interesting about this event is that it specifically mentions the Tauren losing a lot of their history during this time. This implies the Tauren myths we have at present, that date back to the creation of Azeroth, are incomplete. The reason I bring this up is that this leaves the possibility that, similar to the Tol'vir, at some point there may have been another shift in worship that is not mentioned in the recorded myths of the Tauren. A shift that may explain why the Tauren seem disconnected from the sun, why Anahara was attacked, and why Ordos is apparently on the eternal brazier lit by the eternal flame that even in death he claims will never be extinguished. I mean, firstly, the eternal flame is a concept that is directly connected to the light, as the eternal flame in Alonce's chapel in Stratholme saved the church from the undead. Secondly, ever wonder why the leader of the Grim Totem Tauren, Magatha Grim Totem, went out of her way to get a wind serpent familiar? And how that conveniently creates the trio of the Phoenix, the Raven, and the Wind Serpent in Tauren culture? And I guess what I'll put out there is, we know the moon has her chosen. We also know between the Blessed Priestesses and the Night Warrior there is considerable variance in how those blessed can turn out, and the negative side effects. Who says the sun doesn't have its own version of this power? The next hint comes in the form of Agramar from Legion, as he is the titan that empowered Tyr, and so in turn, Tyr, at least in part, reflects Agramar. Two of the major things we learnt about Agramar in Legion were how he fought, and what his purpose in the titan forging process was. Now, I know I'm beating this point over the head, but Agramar, considering he was basically the paladin of the Pantheon, uses a lot of fire during his boss fight in Antorus. As in, not Fellfire, just fire. I mean, to be honest, if someone didn't know Agramar was Agramar, you could have easily made the argument that we were fighting a specialized Titan-forged fire giant. But once again, what I'm saying about quote-unquote fire elementals will hopefully make a little more sense. The more important aspect we learn about Agramar is Agramar's role in the Titan forging process. During the fight with Argus in the Seat of the Pantheon, we are Titan forged. Over the course of the fight, Titans give us boons in each phase which seem to be indicative of the Titan forging process. Golganeth cleanses our soul, Agramar stabilizes / fortifies it, Norgannon and Amenthal seemingly shape it further on a more fundamental level, and Khazgroth seems to forge the final physical product. And if anything goes wrong, mainly death, Aeonai is there to bring the soul back to the physical universe to start the process all over again. The reason this is important is it shows us the Titans were using the light in more than one way. The power of Raj may have been of creation and destruction, however Tyr, being the keeper of Agramar, would have likely had similar powers on top of the ability to fortify the soul. Interestingly enough, this may explain the original use and name of the Halls of Valor. What's also intriguing is Atal Dazar seems to reinforce this idea that Titans were using some form of the light to fortify Azeroth. Priestess Alonza and the Golden Serpent seem to imply gold was used to galvanize tainted blood to stop the corruptive effect, before attempts at purification were attempted. Moving on to Battle for Azeroth, hints to Tyr and the Sun other than the Amentet come in the form of the Kultiran Inquisitors of the Order of Embers in Drustvar, who have a direct connection to House Waycrest, and the Mogu of 8.3. Starting with the smallest hint, all the Mogu who turn up in 8.3 seem to be forms of necromancers, assuming the Island Expeditions weren't mentioning another completely different clan of Mogu. The Zantien seem to be the remnants of the Shanzei, Mogu who during Mists of Pandaria showed they had some form of necromantic power in the Terrace of Ten Thunders. On the island of Shanzei Dao, they also demonstrated the ability to animate statues of cloud serpents using this power to create onyx cloud serpents. The Dakani, on the other hand, assumedly have a connection to the ritualists found in TOT trying to control the Dark Animus. With the reveal of Shadowlands, it appears the magic these Mogu clans are using is related to Revendreth and Aventhia. The blood magic of the Dakani being the obvious connection, while the Zantien's control over the wind serpents and their possible connection to the Shanzei's ability to animate statues of cloud serpents may be connected to how the Venthia create gargoyles. The most interesting clan though is the Baruch. In 8.3 we clearly see the Baruch using necromancy to bring their statues to life. We see this through the new standard of animation related to death magic. Now what's intriguing about this is Solux. Solux is a rare female Mogu who shares a lot of similarities with Suen, the twin consort of the Sun from TOT. What makes Solux interesting is she is a general of the Baruch, Now, because of how rare female Mogu are, this generally implies the Brook have some connection to the sun. For me, this made me wonder if the Brook's actions in the present reflect or are connected to actions creatures of the sun may have attempted in the past. I should also mention now, it's rather intriguing how General Xing of the Rajani, another rare occurrence of a female Mogu, shares a lot of similarities with Lu Lin, the twin consort of the moon, especially when you consider what side of the conflict each is technically on. Thank you for watching.